Well, we had, Jake, we had about 5 outstanding running backs this year, and about 8 or 10 others that were excellent. But I mean, you look at our first team running backs, and I'm not sure anybody could argue with them, are you?
No, look, I mean, you were at the La Feria game, right, when Port Isabel played them, and all of a sudden, Omar Silva came alive.
441 yards, 303 against Orange Grove, and here's the kicker, 211 against Sweeney, okay, in the playoffs. So when you get a 200-yard game in the playoffs, you're doing something. Omar Silva, who was a quarterback and was a safety, he's done everything for that team. This year he rushed for 2,049 yards. There's only been about 10 guys to get $2,000 in the Valley. He's now won, scored more than 20 touchdowns, 26 tackles on defense, even threw the ball 3 times and completed 3 of them. That's not, of course, why he's our best, our top running back on the top list, but I don't see how that you can hold that kid down, man. I mean, and here's the thing. He was halfway injured in that La Feria game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just one of the most unbelievable things I've seen in a long time. And he kept it going all the way through the season, man. Omar Silva, God, number 7.
Yeah.
Silver bullet, man. He's the man.
All right, from Weslaco East, Roy Pedraza. I mean, you got to be on crack if you don't think he's on the first team.
Well, he rushed for 107 yards the first 3 games. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Because he used to be a linebacker, and he was a hell of a linebacker, too. But they put him in as the feature back because Fabian Castro had some injuries. And all he did was rush for over 110 games in a row, including over 300 against Vela, 200 and something against Del Rio. Man, he just pulverized everybody. And I finally got to see him, and I figured it out. He's not very big, but he's stocky. He's 181-pound, I think, wrestling or weightlifting. I mean, the guy's just a horse, man. He's a monster. And he's got wheels. And he's got great cuts, and he had that good line that we talked about a minute ago. No, man, here's the reason he's on this team is 1,922 yards. But what he did against the big teams and in the playoffs, man, I mean, he pretty much, I'm not going to say he single-handedly beat Vela because that's not true. They had a lot of kids, including JC. I mean, they had a bunch of guys do a lot of things, but he just stood out. I mean, we were like, who in the world is this guy, and why is he killing everybody? He was amazing in that game. Absolutely amazing.
Our next one, we're going to move to wide receivers. We'll come back to quarterbacks in a little bit because we like to leave that for the end. But wide receivers, if you were at a Mission Vets game, you would have seen, I believe you call him Spider-Man?
Spider-Man, man.
Jacob Guerrero.
Jacob Guerrero was one of those guys who, had he not had his nicks and bruises, would have had a ton more yards. But as it is, 18 yards a catch, 18 touchdowns. I saw him, make some great plays. He just had the best hands I've seen all year. A big leaper, a super fast kid. I mean, you told me about him during 7-on-7 last year. You said they got some players, and he's one of them. And I just felt like, I'll tell you what clinched it for me, and this is silly, of course, because, he obviously got the stats. When he was standing there at the line and the ref threw the ball out of bounds and he wasn't even looking at him, it was like, and the ref tossed it hard, man, like one of those, And then Jacob was like, I mean, he was catching everything. It was almost like he couldn't stop catching. It was ridiculous. No, but he was a great player, man, and they had a lot of good receivers. Landry Gilpin is the next big shot in waiting. He had 58 catches this year, 12 touchdowns. So when they throw the ball as well as they did, Ramon De Leon, whom we'll talk about, you had a bunch of guys that they could catch the ball, but I just felt like he stood out, man, in terms of his ability and his performance. He made some catches that I haven't seen people make in some time, period, Absolutely outstanding player.
Now, our next player, if he's there in the playoffs, I think it's a different, it's a game changer for Ed Calchelso. That's J.J. Flores.
Well, him and Rodriguez were great players. They can run it, they can catch it, they return kicks, and, it's hard to tell them apart. One guy's got the flowing mane, But this kid, man, had super numbers. Again, in a limited amount of time. They really missed him when he went out in the playoffs. They made it past one round without him. But he just, look, those guys are quick little water bugs with great hands. And they, for small guys, they're aggressive. And I told you about Edgar Alanis, the way he goes up for the ball. Neither one of these kids, is Rodriguez or the guy we picked, Flores, and they're interchangeable. Neither one of them is scared of anybody, and so they'll take a hit and they'll block somebody on the cutback. I've seen it. So, that's one of the reasons why Ed Couch was able to go 3 deep, man, because they had some really tremendous athletes. They got a couple more coming up, too. There's little number 4. You wait next year. John Michael, I think he's going to be back. They got a lot of good players over there, man. Yeah, but he was a standout.
Now, we talked about, Omar Silva from PI.
Yeah.
Well, they ran into a buzzsaw in Rio Hondo. And that was, the whole team, but wide receiver, junior, Eric Pizarro.
Well, they got a lot of underclassmen on that team. Bush, the quarterback, had an outstanding year. Danny Vasquez, a big sophomore, is going to be a 1,000-yard back. Coming to an all-valley team near you, I promise you. But Pizarro was a guy that energized the Rio Hondo season because early in the year when we didn't know who was going to do what, new quarterback, new line, this guy was breaking off long plays every damn game, man, and juking people and making moves and going for the bomb and stuff, and returning kicks. He had, I think, 400 yards returning kicks. I just felt like 10 touchdowns. He had roughly the same numbers as J.J. Flores from Metcalf, and I think they were both the same type of game breaker. Suffice to say that without that kid, Rio Hondo would have been in trouble, man. They may not have finished as well as they did.
Yeah, and
he's back next year.
Yeah,
the whole group.
Yeah, I know it's going to be awesome for them.
Defensively, we'll see what they can come up with, but offensively, Rio Hondo should be scoring 35 points a game just right off the bat.
Yeah. Well, going back to Ed Calchelsa, we're going to go to the line. Elijah Sanchez, you liked him, right?
I do, and I'll tell you what, it was a season in which the Jackets needed a guy to have a great season, right? Because they didn't come in with that huge size on the line like they had in the past. On either side of the ball. I mean, the first time I saw him, I was like, dang, this is not the huge bum, 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 the Darth Vader teams. But he was a great player, absolutely great. And, Coach Marty Solar told us there were a number of guys on that offensive line that were strong. But I remember hearing about him even last year, so I felt like this guy was pretty representative. Hey, if you don't have a good line, you're not going 3 deep. So they had the skilled players. We've already talked about him, but that guy was exemplified to me what it's going to take in the trenches to get past some of those tough games, which they did.
Yeah. Now, our next lineman, I think one of their relatives said we were half-assing it, and I think pull our heads out of our,
let us have it, man.
Classy. But regardless of that, it doesn't matter. We're still going to put your kid on, classless or not.
Says it twice? Yeah. I, of course, am not in this. I'm
compartmentalizing myself. Offensive lineman, Gaston Cortina.
Look, man, there's no bigger, stronger kid in the Valley, okay? That's another one of those guys, almost like an Anzaldúa. Remember David Anzaldúa?
David, yeah.
Where your teeth start chattering. I have to block that guy. I'm going to have to try to get around that guy. Pretty good feet. Good quickness for a guy that weighs 320. He's a weight thrower. The guy, shot put, I believe, or discus. Anyway, he went to state, and he's going to be a college lineman someday. He's a senior. He just, sometimes, like with Anzaldúa, he would go against some guys and it would just be too easy. But I've seen him take on some big, strong, and quick defensive linemen, and he just gets out there and that first punch, you feel it. You can hear it up in the 20th row. Oh, bow, and then he steps back. That guy is something, really is. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, just like David, plays with a temper. I don't know what it is about Edinburgh offensive lineman, man. You can look at Jaime Alanis and him and some other guys. Just always, if there's a flag goes up, it may be one of these guys around it. You know what I'm saying? And I like that in my football player, man. I don't want a guy to put me out of field goal range, but I like somebody who's going to fight because you know what? Somebody lays down like the pansy or the pennyweights we mentioned earlier. Yeah. That's not going to do it for me, man. I like Gaston's intensity, and I like the fact that he is an accomplished athlete in 2 sports because that shows that he knows how to work. Yeah. It's not just God-given talent. I mean, he's 6'6", 320. But he's worked, and he was a lot stronger looking this year. Because I'm not saying he was heavy or nothing last year, but he's just done the work.
Yeah.
And he's a good-looking specimen, and I think I've heard some colleges are already after him like crazy, and I believe it.
That'd be great.
Yeah, dual sport. Yeah.
Now, PI, if you're going to open up the hole for Omar Silva, you got to have a good lineman, a couple good linemen, but one of them made our top list, and that's Joseph Torres.
Well, I mean, they had 3 or 4 guys. That line was a work in progress from the beginning. If we go back and read the stories, they weren't quite sure. In fact, that whole team was a work in progress. And for them to come up with a 9-2 season and a 2,000-yard back and a defense that we're going to talk about a kid that made it on defense. I'm foreshadowing. Spoiler alert. I think Coach Dunbar and them really need to be happy with the season they had. I'm sure they wish they'd have gotten past Sweeney, but the bottom line is this kid was a leader of the team on offense, among others. And like you said, if your back's getting that many, and if Camacho's scoring 10 touchdowns, in other words, they got a bunch of guys. They had a bunch of yards, man. PI had a hell of a defense, and they had a very good offense. And, a 9-2 season is nothing to be sneezed at. And so this Torres kid, from what we can ascertain, highly representative of a return to excellence for the Tarpons. Although I'll tell you what, most teams go 9-2, they're happy as clams. With PI, they say, why can't we get 10?
Yeah.
That's fair enough. That's what we call the Tarpon pride right there.
Now, when we talk about opening holes, McAllen Memorial, with all the running backs that they had that were getting 1,000 yards here and there, Armando Garcia was on our list.
It was important that kid play well this year because they, too, had some injuries and some question marks. And, they knew they had the horses. They had a big freshman, and they had, of course, Mendes. But, one kid got hurt early, another kid in the first couple of games. So all of a sudden, Bill Littleton there looking over like, boy, what, because they brought back a bunch of guys from last year. Not all of them lived to ride the Rapids. I don't mean literally, of course. But this kid was consistent all year, and I think that he helped them get through that early stretch where they weren't quite sure who was doing what to whom. And as you say, 3,000 yards as a rushing team speaks for itself. And so if they don't have a lineman on the team, then we're nuts.
Yeah.
And Armando was a great representative.
Yeah. Now, one of the best teams in the Valley all year, San Benito, they have an offensive line that made our team, and that's Julio Pesina.
Yeah. They had a big kid last year, Partita, whom we saw at the playoff game, and he's going to get a shot for Kingsville about 20 minutes from now. Pesina was not exactly the biggest kid, okay? In fact, you look at him, and he looked more like a defensive end or something, more like a linebacker, But, man, aggressive, quick, and he was another one of those kids, and they had a lot of kids who would come hit you. Garza and Moreno and Skylar Garcia, but this kid, 70 on offense, he set the tone, man. Now, they had a strange-looking line, they didn't have a lot of size. They had a couple of short, I don't want to say dumpy kids because that's an insult, but stocky, squatty. But those guys cleared a lot of holes, man, for Harper, number 4, by the way, who's back next year, and for the quarterback who's back next year, and for the receivers, a couple of whom are back. If you're looking for a preseason number 1, I'm not trying to prime the pump here early on,
but they're up there.
Pacino was a great lineman. I liked his attitude. When I saw him in the playoff game, man, he was hitting everybody in sight, and he was one of those guys who he refused to lose, and it was only when the clock ran out that they said they didn't score enough. I liked his moxie, man. I liked the team's grit. And I wish we could play that one over, that we didn't have to play in the Bay Area wind tunnel, man. That was garbage. It made me mad.
Yeah.
But such is life.
Oh, well, our kicker for the first team is from Vela. He's junior Austin Garza.
Well, he didn't do much. Only 56 out of 56 extra points, made his field goal, 13 touchbacks. And I'll tell you what he did that was amazing. Nobody does the onside kick better. You tell him where you want it, and that's where you get it. Little lefty, man. And he'll run down there and make a tackle. He did get hurt in one game because he made a tackle. Whatever, it's fine. If you want to see, there's a couple of ways to do the kick now. It ain't just you top it and go for it. I've seen teams now starting to get directional kick into one of the front 5, and he did it with the best of them, man. They got a couple of onside kicks like that. A couple of them, he'd clip it, and up it goes, and the kid runs over. No, I thought he was just a very stylish and very well-skilled kicker as a junior. I don't see why he won't have a chance to kick at the next level. They didn't try that many field goals this year, but I watched him warm up, and the dude can hit from anywhere. Man, he's very precise kicker. Yeah.
Well, our first team all-purpose. Now, this is, like we said before, this is for guys that didn't necessarily make our list at receiver.
Utility. Second base, shortstop, outfield. They can pitch in a pinch.
Yeah, you plug them in anywhere. Our first one is Mission Vets, from Mission Vets, and it's Roman De Leon, who set some records this year.
Hey, man, look, numbers-wise, and it wasn't just numbers. Right? More than 200 catches. He had 87 receptions this year and over 1,000. But he had 53 tackles. The game I saw him against, who did we see him play? Pioneer. He was hitting like there's no tomorrow. That's a 3-year guy right there, okay? He's one of the original of this crop that came and went 3 deep from Mission Vets and Coach David Gilpin. He's one of the bedrocks. And I love Jacob Guerrero, man. I love me some Spidey, right? But no, De Leon is one of the heart and souls of the team because whatever you need it, he'll do. I mean, you name me a person who has 87 catches and 53 tackles. That's ridiculous, man. That guy never came off the field. I think he's well deserving of first team all-purpose, man. Absolutely.
Now, this next player plays for my friend, Coach Eloy Perez from Lyford, and he's the offensive coordinator, and Coach Infante, and that's Frankie Moreno.
Well, again, like the guy we just talked about, man, 20 touchdowns, yes, but he also played a ton of defense. He could catch it, and he could receive it. He had that one game early on with 4 touchdowns. Remember, even a tip and a pick and a 6. That's what I love about 3A and 4As, man. You get those kids that are two-way players, and they love to play the game. And I thought Frankie had a tremendous season, man. I mean, let's face it. Lyford got off the ziggy, man, as Dick Vitale would say. He got off the ziggy, baby. They won a playoff game, and they'd been close a couple of times. But this year they made it happen. I thought they had a decent chance in the next round. But you know what? Hey, you're talking about some tall cotton.
Yeah.
But I think this guy was one of the great all-purpose players of the year, and we started seeing him. I mean, I would look at the box score, and I'm like, is this a misprint? This dude's name is in there like 10 times. He was doing everything. Absolutely great player.
Now, speaking of a guy that does everything, is Westlaco East J.C. Vargas. He's only a junior.
Ciro the hero, man. Just run the Vela tape back again. 32 seconds left in regulation. They get the ball and they pitch it twice to this little dude, and he runs 16 and 24 and field goal, and out go the SaberCats, man. He's got the resume like Roman De Leon. Some rushing yards, some receiving yards, quite a few really for a team that didn't even throw that much. And defensively did his thing. He had some picks. I mean, he's just one of those guys. You could probably put him in Mahjong and he'd be good. You know what I mean?
And
Shuffleboard, he'd be.
I'm gonna tell you how
one.
nice this kid is too. I dropped my keys off. I dropped my keys from my pocket at versus Del Rio. He ran up to me and gave me my keys during one of the biggest games.
He caught him, ran it back for a touchdown.
Yeah. But I mean, look, I watched him a couple times this year. It was against Westlaco and some other games and the Vela game, and incredible runner.
And like you said, a great attitude. Not the biggest guy.
No.
But don't you remind you of Ciro a little bit?
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to do something big to help his team win, man. And I'm sure look, here's one of those few guys you can say when he graduates, he will have started, unless something happens, he gets hurt, God forbid, every game.
Yeah.
He started as a freshman, remember? Oh, shoot, I was looking at his numbers, I'm like, who is this freshman? Well, now he's a veteran. I would expect him to lead the race next year for all kinds of things.
Yeah. From Brownsville Lopez, junior, Jose Echeverria.
Well, I saw him early on, and he's number one. Little guy, but super quick. And he's one of those guys who, some little guys are strong. Some little guys are weak. This little guy is packed, man. He's quick. He's a soccer player. He was running the jet sweep. He'd line up at quarterback. He'd go out for a pass. He'd take the pitch. But he was also a hell of a kicker. He made several field goals. And one of the reasons why Lopez was able to have such a tremendous season is that guy was able to contribute all over the field. Kick returns as well. Man, I was really impressed with him.
Yeah, this next player, I actually had him as a student. Didn't know anything about him until I had him as a student. Then I left for a new job, and he just kept playing. He kept playing, and if it wasn't for him, I don't know if this next team even has remotely the chance that they had this year, and that's D'Anthony Alvarez from Edinburgh.
Absolutely, man, absolutely. I kept hearing about him last year. They were telling me, this guy's going to be good, man. You just watch. I'm like, well, what does he do? And they would be like, well, everything. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, everybody says it. He does everything. Great punter, great punt returner, unbelievable safety. I mean, look, this guy, number 2 for Edinburgh High, if you look at the highlights, man, he'll come up and pop you, and he'll make a pick. I mean, I saw him make 2 in a game. Really good directional punter. And I think the main thing that he did, besides all that, was when he would pick up a punt on the bounce, and he would get 20, 25 yards down the sidelines and set them up, man. No, he, to me, is one of the MVPs of that team. Absolutely had a great senior year, and I'm pretty happy for him myself.
Yeah. Now, our next one is somebody you really like, too, from St. Joe's.
I like everybody.
Yeah, but you liked it. Yeah. You saw him play earlier in the year, too.
Bernie DLG. Bernie DLG. Now, look, God, I love that kid. And let me tell you why. 4 forced fumbles and 80 tackles. But he's a receiver. Yeah. 904 yards or some such receiving. Look, I know they had some tremendous D1 type players. Ricky Minor, when we talk about Kai Money, Mario Garcia, Kawache, But this guy was not the biggest, but unbelievable, man. He just did a ton of things.
He was a player.
He's a player, man. A lot like J.C. Vargas. And I'll tell you the thing about him is that I loved about Bernie is that when I saw him, he was blocking people like no tomorrow, man. He just, a lot of guys want the yards and the touchdowns and the, whatever after the game, but this guy was just playing football, man. It seemed like he had a great time doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bernie DLG.
Yeah. Now, our next one from Harlingen is Fuentes.
Canaan Fuentes, you could have put Sam Duffy on here, too. They had a lot of guys, and I'll tell you why I wanted to put this person on there. When Leo Tienda got hurt, the offense was struggling, and, they had their quarterback back, a guy whom I think a lot of, and yet they didn't have the running threat, and it started to look like 2 or 3 years ago when they just couldn't get enough yards, you know. But the combination of guys they had, Villarreal and Duffy and this guy Fuentes, started to make big plays and started to return punts for touchdowns. And that's one of the reasons why Harlingen turned it on the second half of the season. And I always thought that this kid Fuentes was athletic. I've watched him juke and jive his way around. I think a lot of him as a player. And if you look at those late box scores when the Cardinals started rolling, he was in the middle of that action, man. All-purpose, catch the ball, run back kicks, and everything else.
Yeah. Well, that is our first team.
Isn't that funny? I do love all these guys, man. I'm the instant lover of guys. When I see a guy play, I'm like, oh my God, it's the best guy since sliced bread. And you know what? In that moment, he is. I take great joy in seeing these kids play, and watching people perform and have great moments under the Friday night lights. There's nothing like it, man. I'm getting all fired up, and now I'm all pissed off because the season's over.
Yeah.
I was trying not to think about that, but I'm mad now.
You're like the positive Donald Trump when he says he loves everybody. Hey, I'm the one that tears him down on Twitter. So
horrible.
Yeah.
What's a good combination?
Yeah. But that's the first team and second team offense right now. We're going to come back. We're going to go to break. We'll come back and we'll have the second team defense followed by our all-purpose and then our first defense, and then the big awards.
Yeah, which would be for what? Screenplay of the year?
Yeah, all that good stuff.
All right, yeah, that's enough. Be in a minute.